I've been a financial advisor now for over 20 years, and I've helped guide hundreds of families into retirement. One of the more common questions I get asked is, Azul, I'm really looking forward to retirement, and I'd love to be, if it's possible, I'd love to be able to spend $100,000 a year. What do you think? Is it possible? And if so, how much money do I need in order to make that happen? So in today's video, I'm literally letting you inside of the tent. I'm going to use some software that is free and it's online and you can follow along and tweak things. It's not what I use professionally, but I think it's pretty good for what we're trying to do here, which is get you in the ballpark. So let's look at this. It's honestmath.com is the website. And I like this software for a couple reasons. First, it's no affiliation. I just like using it. I think it's simple, but I also think it's powerful because it has a Monte Carlo simulator in it. And you can get an idea for the likelihood of success, which I think is important, right? There is no yes, single answer, yes, you're going to be fine, or no, right? I wish we could give certainty. And while financial advisors cannot give certainty, we can give clarity. And the way we give clarity is with tools like a Monte Carlo simulator. And fortunately, with honestmath.com, we don't have to pay thousands of dollars. It's free, it's online, it's simple to use. So let's plug in some numbers. Okay, if we go into the personal information here, you can see for the name of the client, I'm just calling it, somebody that's 55 years old, $100,000 a year. The birth date is in January of 1970. In retirement, they're going to have $0 of income coming in, but I've got Social Security kicking in at 67 years old and $3,333 a month. Why $3,333 a month? Because that's $40,000 a year. So of this $100,000, once Social Security kicks in, $60,000 is going to come from this person's individual savings. $40,000 is going to come from Social Security. Again, you can tweak all these things yourself. Okay, now let's go to the portfolio. It's a 60-40 portfolio. I'm going to make a guess that we're going to need $2.5 million to make this happen. I've got expenses of $8,333. Why that amount? Because $8,333 times 12 is that $100,000 a year. The next is we're going to go to the stock settings. And I want you to see that the assumptions for the stock market return, and again, you can change this, is 8% for stocks and 4.5% for bonds. Importantly, I have checked fat tails. And the reason I have fat tails is, you remember that statistical bell curve from high school where it got really thin at the ends, but right in the middle it got tall. Well, stock market returns tend to not go so thin at the ends, and those are called the tails of the distribution. So stock market returns tend to have fat tails. Okay, so let's look at this. At $2.5 million, which is how much money I put into the portfolio, you can see in the worst case scenario, now there's this light blue section, and the top of that light blue section is the upper 20% of results. So that is the lowest upper 20%. So if, let's say you had, just for easy math, 1,000 scenarios that were run in the Monte Carlo, actually it's 10,000 in this tool, but let's call it 10,000. So you've got 2,000, these are the top 2,000 cases, are that the upper border of that blue line, the upper 2,000 out of 10,000 cases, those are the best cases. Then at the bottom, the lower end of the shaded blue, those are the worst 2,000 cases. So you can see if somebody got unlucky, they ran out of money at 87. If they were lucky, they had $14.5 million. In the median, 5,000 cases did better, 5,000 cases did worse. You can see the median is about $4 million. Okay, so that's at $2.5 million, but maybe you don't have to wait till you get to $2.5 million. What would happen at $2 million? So let's run this again. The only thing I'm doing is I'm going back to the portfolio section. Everything else is staying the same. And I'm changing my portfolio value, my starting value, from $2.5 million to $2 million. And here you can see in my lucky case, people have $6 million or more. In my unlucky case, people are running out of money at 78. And in the median case, the people end up with $350,000. So that's probably as low as you want to go in your portfolio as you're getting older. So I call that the die with zero portfolio. Why do I call it Die with Zero? Because there's a book by that name, Die with Zero, written by Bill Perkins, that talks about, trying to use up as much of your money as you can during your lifetime so that you can trade in all that hard work and the sacrifice that you made. You can get the benefit from it. You can use your money for having experiences and helping out people that you love and causes that you love. So Bill Perkins' book, Die with Zero, I was going to write a book like that. Bill did such a great job. I'm no longer going to write that book. So I call the portfolio where you almost run out of money, but hopefully you don't. I call that the Die with Zero portfolio. Speaking of almost running out of money, I do want to say, if you run this with $1 million, go ahead, go back to the portfolio settings, put in $1 million, and you'll almost certainly run out of money in that situation if you retire at 55. In the worst case, people are running out of money at 64. The median case, 66, and even the lucky people are running out of money at 70. So this case was looking at somebody that's 55. But what if you're 60? What happens if the question is, I want to live on $100,000 a year and I'm 60, I'm not 55, then how much money do you need? Well, let's go back to the personal information and let's just change the birth date to 1965 instead of 1970. We're now making you 5 years older. 1965 is your birthday. And I'm going to guess that we're going to need $1.5 million for this portfolio to work. And when I run that analysis, so I put into the portfolio setting a portfolio value of 1.5, the birth date is 1965, you can see that in the best case scenario, we pass away 30 years later with $1.7 million. In the median case, we run out of money when we're 84. And in the unlucky case, we run out of money even earlier at 76. So that's kind of a Die with Zero portfolio where half the people don't make it to 84 before they run out of money. So that's a Die with Zero. It might be a scary ride. So that's not certainly not for everybody. But let's run it at $2 million. So I'm leaving everything the same. I'm just going in a portfolio and I'm looking at $2 million. And here you can see in the unlucky case, you make it all the way to 86. In the median case, you never run out of money and you pass away with $2 million, same thing that you started with. And then if you're fortunate, if you're lucky, you're passing away with $6 million. Okay, so I'd say $2 million is in the ballpark of what you need to make this happen. What about if you're 65 years old instead of 60? So let's move that birthday to 1960. We're going to go to the personal information. All we're doing is changing the birth date to 1960. And let's see what happens at $1 million. So let's put in the portfolio value, $1 million. You can see in the unlucky case, you're running out of money at 77. In the median case, half the cases you run out of money sooner, half the cases later, it's 80. And if you're very fortunate, you're going to make it to 87. So that is below what I would consider to be a Die with Zero portfolio. So let's increase that to $1.25 million. And here you can see the unlucky people pass away run out of money at 80. The median, half better, half worse, run out of money at 86. And then the fortunate people run out of money at 1.2 million. So there's not much of a cushion there. And I have plenty of clients that would say, hey, Azul, I don't like that the media is running out of money at 86. Let's put more money in. So I'm calling that an aggressive Die with Zero portfolio. But what happens if we just increase things by $250,000 more? If we look at $1.5 million. If we put $1.5 million in there, we see that people, the worst case scenarios, the unlucky people are running out of money at 84. The median people are passing away with $500,000 on average, and the lucky people are passing away with $3 million. That's in the range that, there's no right or wrong here. You have to decide what's right for you. But I do have clients, I would say, yeah, I'm good with that. So, to recap, how much money do you need to have in order to live on $100,000 a year in retirement? If you're 55 years old, somewhere between $2 and $2.5 million. If you're 60 years old, somewhere between $1.5 and $2 million. And if you're 65 years old, somewhere between $1.25 million and $1.5 million. Now, I want to encourage you, first off, none of this is financial advice. I don't know your situation, but I do want to encourage you, the amount of time it takes to build up this buffer to go from, in that last case, if you're 65 years old, the difference between retiring with $1.25 million and $1.5 million, that's $250,000. And if you think about how long it took you initially to save your first $250,000, probably took a long time. I mean, for most people, that's a 10 to 15-year journey. But if you've already got $1 million, how long does it take you to go from $1 million to $1.5 million? That can happen in 3 years, that can happen in 5 years, that can happen in 7 years. It can happen much more quickly. Now, the challenge is we don't have as much time left. If you're 65 years old, waiting 7 years to go from $1 million to $1.5 million, that is why you have to hire a financial advisor, preferably somebody that's a fiduciary to you, and you have a conversation with that person. And your goal there is to make the decision that's right for you. There's the academic answer, but you don't want the academic answer. You want the decision that's right for you. And likewise, one of the decisions I want you to be thinking about is enjoying the journey until you do get to retire. And that's what this video up here is. 7 things that I want you to stop doing in your 50s in order to enjoy the journey until you get to retire.